What's up, Colorado Realtors? I'm Scott Peterson. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Legal Bites. As you can see, I'm still quarantined and reasonably well quarantined. Things are loosening up a bit, and yet we still got some concerns going around in a variety of states related to some escalations. And so I'm still filming this from the comforts of my home, however, but eventually we'll get back in the studio to do these things with my buddy Monica in a much more professional manner. In the meantime, I haven't been to see you guys in a couple of weeks, and believe it or not, I've had people call the hotline and shoot me emails saying, "Where are you? We miss you." And I can't tell you how reassuring that is and how much that means to me that people actually miss seeing these Legal Bites updated every once in a while. It's been a few weeks because we've had kind of a flat, consistent plane we've all been on with regard to real estate and the executive orders throughout the month of June. And as of yesterday and into today, the June order didn't expire, actually, which surprised me a little bit. But so we got some changes here that I want to talk about, including some information on open houses. And so that's led me to rush out here July 1st at about 2:35 in the afternoon, 2020, to get you this update. So I want to clarify, first of all, kind of what's occurred. And I was a little bit surprised. What I thought was going to occur was we were going to move from the stay at home, which we were in, to safer at home in the vast great outdoors or what have you, into the new phase, which has been referred to as protect our neighbors. And I was expecting maybe we were going to get sometime today an order related to protect our neighbors. I think I sort of saw that wasn't going to happen as of yesterday when Governor Polis basically sounded like they were going to be just sort of extending out the current safer at home in the great outdoors order. And that's actually what happened. Today, they released, despite the fact that it was dated June 30th, it just came out this morning, but they released the new public health order. It's the 8th amended order to the safer at home in the vast great outdoors. And that came out. And so I don't know what's going to happen with the protect our neighbors. It does sound like they're making reference to the fact that is going to be a county by county opt-in opportunity, as opposed to a state order that some counties may elect to opt out of, like we had previously. And so stay tuned with that. My prediction or my suspicion, and this is just me sort of riffing here, is that at some point in the next week or two, we will see a framework for an extensive public health order framework for protect our neighbors. And it may not even be that long, I don't know. And then any counties that would like to make application to be exempted into that new protect our neighbors order would be able to do that. And anybody who doesn't make that affirmative election to get in, and you got to demonstrate certain criteria in order to elect in. And then a lot of your counties, maybe major metropolitan counties that might be a little bit more restrictive and concerned about the spread or their ability to handle the spread, could just remain where they are currently in the safer at home in the vast great outdoors, as amended by the 8th amended public health order that came out today. So stay tuned for more on the protect our neighbors. I just don't know where that's going. So as I get this order this morning, I'm flipping through here and I'm looking, as everybody has been wondering, what's going to happen with open houses. And I get to the top of page 10, and this order will have that linked either down here or up there, wherever, somewhere right around my face here will be linked, a link to this order, as well as a few other things that I'm going to touch on in just a second. So look for those if you want to click and download the current order that I'm going from. It's available. So on top of page 10, we have that same definition of field services, which you guys have been working under for a long time as field service workers. And it specifically said open houses are not allowed. All right. And in this one, it says open houses must follow the indoor event requirements in section IH4 of this order. And so I thought to myself, it looks like they're going to give us the ability to do some open houses, which is a good thing. And Carr has been sort of loosely advocating through a variety of channels over the last several weeks to try and get some loosening on the ability to do open houses, again, under some very strict guidelines. And we got some strict guidelines. So open houses now need to be treated as an indoor event requirement. And so that takes me to the indoor event requirements, which you'll find in the Public Health Order, page 6, wherever you click on it, above or below. And indoor venues may allow up to 100 people within their usable space. 100 people at an open house. That is an impressive open house. It's going to need to be a really, really, really large house in order to accommodate that, because what you're going to have to do is a few things. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the requirements of indoor venues if you're going to be having open houses. And one of those things is it has to meet the occupancy requirements based on the social distancing calculator, social distancing calculator. And I'm going to have that linked somewhere here around this place, a link to the social distancing calculator. It's also linked in the executive order itself, or in the public health order itself, so you can check it out there. But by that, you basically say, okay, it's a 2,800 square foot home, and 1/3 of the floor space is occupied by furniture and televisions and kitchen, dining room tables, and so on and so forth. And it'll give you a number of total people that could be there. But the indoor event actually refers to rooms. And so what you're going to have to do if you're a broker, or you're going to sit an open house, or you're going to host an open house, is you're probably going to have to calculate occupancy based on each individual room, so that you ensure you don't have, more than that specific rooms. Like maybe you could have up to 5 people at one time in a living room, but in a bedroom you might only be able to have 1 or 2. Depending on the size of the room and so forth. So you got to use that social distancing calculator and make sure you understand where people are. Now I'm going to give you some suggestions at the end of this thing for potentially a better way to address this in a larger manner than just letting everybody kind of come through and walk through the open house. But you got to use a social distancing calculator. You got to figure out the occupancy limits, and it's on a usable space per room is how the order refers to it. You have to minimize use of restroom facilities. And I would just probably, maybe tape down the toilets or sinks and maybe leave the door open so people aren't having to touch a lot of things, but maybe put a sign or something that basically says, please don't utilize the restroom. Again, indoor venues are really, this would be if you were at a concert hall as well, right? And so the delineation, we're just falling under a larger definition where they're saying minimize use of restroom facilities. On an open house basis, it ought to be pretty reasonable and practical to just eliminate use of restroom facilities, but it does say minimize. So got to have face coverings, obviously. You have to minimize or eliminate mixing of people. Now, that doesn't sound like too much fun, but what they refer to is essentially like maybe directional signs, or maybe people enter in through the front door and exit out through the rear door, or something to this effect, where you're not having people overlap. I don't know that, necessarily all of that is like having people exit the rear and go around the side or anything is the important part, but you do want to take particular caution at entrances and exits so you don't have 2 or 3 people walking into the property at the same time as 2 or 3 people are walking out of the property, because maintaining social distancing requirements is impossible in that situation, particularly in a home. Or similarly, going up and down the second floor or basement stairs or things like that if you have parties crossing. So trying to control and eliminate any of that is really important. And then the other sort of high point I'll touch on is that ventilation must meet OSHA requirements. And there's a link in the order. We'll put a link somewhere, again, I'm not sure up or down or wherever it ends up in your Facebook feed or YouTube channel or wherever, but do look around here. There should be a link to the OSHA requirements. I don't know what those are, so don't call me and ask me if you're compliant with OSHA standards for purposes of air ventilation. I am not an engineer. I'm just a simple lawyer and struggle with that even sometimes. But I don't know what that means, but I do think you want to be super cautious. Maybe keep as many windows open in the place as you can, that sort of thing at a minimum, but do at least be familiar that is technically part of the order for the purposes of an open house. So those are the big picture requirements that if you want to have an open house, you have to adhere to. And you also then have to comply with Appendix B, which is what you guys have been living under for a couple of months now with regard to showings. And Appendix B is what field services need in order to show property. And this is the providing gloves and masks. Well, in an open house context, that might get expensive or a little bit impractical, but you got to make sure that gloves and masks are available if people are interacting and coming into your open house, that they're wearing them, and that if they don't have them, that you're offering them to them or being able to provide them. Inquiring about symptoms or high likelihood of COVID exposure. That's another requirement that comes out of Exhibit B or Appendix B from the former orders. Maintain detailed log. This is a really big one for open houses. So maintaining a list of names and email addresses, phone numbers, and dates of contact. And that's for contact tracing. So you're actually going to have people that are legitimately signing into your open house. And I know it's a very common real estate realtor joke that, so many times open house attendees, they give you false information because they don't want to be marketed to. Well, in this case, it's an actually requirement of the executive order. Obviously maintaining high levels of sanitation, cleaning surfaces as often as possible, all of those things. So all of the Exhibit B stuff that was a little bit easier to probably adhere to in a scheduled showing context, also now has to be adhered to with regard to open houses, as well as all of those indoor venue requirements that I kind of ticked off just above. And again, you can find those in the executive order, and I referenced the page. It's kind of the meat of it starts for indoor venues, starts at the top of page 6 and goes kind of through the end of page 7 if you're downloading and looking at the actual order. The other thing that I would encourage you guys in this case specifically to do as well is make sure you're having a conversation with your sellers. Your listing broker, your sellers might want you to have an open house. I would shoot them an email. Hopefully you're using the CAR COVID advisories and you're giving that seller the advisory, but maybe shoot them an email and say, listen, I just want to confirm that, we've talked about the risks of having high volumes of people in the house, and just want to confirm that you want to authorize me and instruct me to host an open house in your home. I think having that email is going to be a pretty good thing if somebody ever were to have exposure, or maybe somebody were to bring COVID into a home and somebody has to sanitize. I mean, at least you've got the ability to say, hey, listen, you in writing authorized me after I informed you of some of the risks. 2 last points I want to make here before I'll let you guys go. Number one is I've had a lot of questions about broker opens. I think broker opens now are in this same category. Anything having to do with an open house, if you guys are going to have your new listings and you want to have 8 or 10 or set aside 2 hours in a day where other agents in your area might want to just drop by and check it out, that falls in that open category. And so all of these requirements that I've talked about today would apply, as opposed to what I've been hearing in the past is or in the last couple of months, is broker tours, where maybe your office gets in a car and it's much more, to my mind, like a scheduled showing and looking at a home. So you can do these now broker opens that I've been telling you can't do, I think, under all of the guidelines that have been enumerated under the latest public health order. And the last thing I'm going to tell you guys is please be careful. Please use caution. Remember, your high profile industry, as you put out open house signs, you're going to have neighbors going, what are these, these people are coming by. They're going to be looking, are they wearing face masks? Are they being reasonable and responsible? I would tell you, I'm glad this occurred to me, the easiest way to really control the situation, to the extent that it's at all practical, is to try and keep groups individually, socially distanced, of course, out in the front of the house, and allow a group to come through and sort of make sure you're reasonably escorting them around the house, and then allow them to leave and have the next group come in. And then you don't get into some of the issues with regard to directional, people crossing in the stairs, or people touching a lot of surfaces that you're not aware of, or too many people in one room. You have much more control if you are able to do that. I know in some cases that's not exactly practical, but to the extent that you're able to kind of, have little mini scheduled tours for the open house, the better off you're going to be. You can still put out your signage and do all of that stuff, but you have more control, and that's going to make logging people easier, tracking people easier, tracing their touches and use of restrooms and all that stuff a lot easier. So think about that, but do be careful in every regard as you're doing this. As people complain or see things going on that they don't like, you run the risk of getting in trouble again, and we run the risk of going backwards on all of the progress we've incrementally made over the last several months, trying to keep you guys as realtors and as our members busy and keeping things as traditional and common as they can be. And I know it's been tough, but please do be very cautious. I'm going to leave it with that. I hope everybody has a fantastic 4th of July holiday weekend. Socially distanced, of course. We got to say that every time, I feel like, which is getting sad to me. But anyhow, take care of yourselves. And I will be back probably the next time when we get some additional direction on what this Protect Our Neighbors order is going to look like and if there's real estate implications related to that. So stay tuned for that. If you have questions in the meantime, Car Legal Hotline is available from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 Monday through Friday. Look forward to hearing from you there. Take care and be safe. Thanks, guys.